Hi friends, and welcome back to Gardening Suburbia. My name's Amanda and I am going to do a garden tour today for mid-July, which is just insane to think about because it feels like the season just started and we are about in the throes of picking all of the tomatoes. So I live here in Cincinnati, Ohio, Zone 6. My growing season is about 180 days, give or take, depending on what Mother Nature decides for that season. We are getting ready to actually start planning for the fall garden, but I wanted to encapsulate what the garden is midway through peak summer, and it's kind of incredible to see the growth that this garden has taken on from my first garden tour just a month or so ago. Everything has grown so much, and so I wanted to give you guys a chance to see what it's like to be in my garden during this time of the season with the plants going crazy and kind of just seeing where things are at, seeing how things have progressed, what growth different plants have taken on, and really just give you guys a good idea of what I'm growing this season. Maybe some things I maybe won't grow next, and we'll just see where this garden tour takes us. The last time I did a garden tour, I started up on my balcony and kind of showed you guys what I'm growing up there. This time around, I'm going to start down in the lower garden, and I'm going to start with my little flower patch. This bed right here originally was a tulip bed. There are still tulip bulbs in there, but they're down far enough that I was able to plant some flowers on the top. So I have a patch of zinnias from some peppermint sticks, as well as I think this is my green envy, and then another just yellow variety. I'm not sure which one this one is. And then I got a few dahlia starts from my sister. She started them from seed, and they're looking gorgeous. This is really pretty, like yellow bloom. I'm not exactly sure what variety these are, just because I got them from her, but nonetheless very pretty. And then I have my single sunflower in this bed, and it's just starting to put a head off on that guy. In this bed as well, I have a gazania that I also got from my sister, and these are just so unique. And like, I really appreciate the super white undersides of these leaves compared or contrasted to the darker sides of the top. They're starting to put off a ton of blooms, which is really cool. And then back in this corner, I have, this is a Shasta daisy. So this is a white daisy. So I've been cutting off of the zinnias. So zinnias are typically ready to be harvested when this neck of portion isn't wobbling. So this one is actually ready to harvest. This one as well. Let's find one that's not ready. Yeah, that guy. See how he's like wiggling back and forth? This is not quite ready to harvest. So as soon as that neck thickens up and is more sturdy, this peppermint stick zinnia would be ready to harvest. Which, they're just so pretty. I have my my raspberries. I actually got these were starts from my sister. She had raspberries are notorious for spreading like wildfire. So I went ahead and picked a few runners that she had, and I planted them here. My dog has decided that this was the spot to go, so you can see kind of some damage from him. But these have not set off any raspberries since the first time I planted them. I got like a handful of raspberries the first season, which wasn't really even sure I was going to get that. So I think this season I'm going to go ahead and actually harvest some of these leaves and attempt to make raspberry leaf tea, because I think that'd be good. I'll try to avoid the area that my dog used as a restroom, because I don't really want that. And then the tomato patch, I went through here and I harvested this section, and then I realized that I actually planted these where there is poison ivy or poison oak. So right there, those 3 leaves, not good. So So I'd actually given myself poison ivy on this arm. So now I'm not quite sure if I want to go through here and harvest the rest of my potatoes. I probably will need to suit up, put some long pants, some boots, and some gloves on, and long shirt, and try to get the rest of the potatoes, because there are still some potatoes in here. As you can see, there's some yellowing leaves, but I don't know that I want to get poison ivy again, which it's pretty much everywhere in my backyard. Didn't realize that. This little spot, I planted a whole bunch of wildflower seeds, and also that's a sunflower, and I got some cosmos. So I think we got some calendula popping up in here, as well as all the cosmos. And then pretty sure this is a black-eyed Susan. This is in a wildflower mix. More cosmos, this pretty little dude, and then these guys. They all just nice little pop of color in my desolate backyard. So a little wildflower patch for the pollinators. This area did have catnip and some other things, but again, my dog decided it was a restroom spot. So I have my echinacea here, which I started from seed this season, and it is looking so happy in here despite my dog using the restroom on it. In this container, I have a Tiger Stripes cherry tomato. I think this is I think this one is the green one. Yeah, just the green cherry tomato. I haven't got any off of this one just yet, but it does have a ton of blooms on it. Quite a few cherry tomatoes on there. This lower bed is my pepper bed, and I think like over 10 varieties of peppers that I'm growing this season. And this is honestly the best that they've looked all of the years that I've grown food. So my first season, I did go ahead and plant most of my peppers in pots. And I think they were in the wrong kind of pots, the pots that hold the water at the bottom. Peppers really like soil to be dried out really well. Otherwise they get kind of sad looking, which I can show you an example of a sad looking tomato or pepper plant, because I have one in a pot that it shouldn't be in. But all of my peppers in this bed look fantastic, and I'm so excited for such a large pepper harvest this season, especially since I have a few plans for a few of these peppers. Well, I have plans for all of my peppers, but I'm really excited about my Sugar Rush peach jam. Last season I made a ton of peach habanero jam, and I figured I would go ahead and try it with the Sugar Rush peach pepper. Sugar Rush peach peppers are at a lower Scoville rating, so they're not quite as spicy as habaneros, but they still have a kick. And if it's not quite as spicy as I would like, I can go ahead and add in some other peppery spice. This first pepper plant is my Chili de Arbol, which is a pepper that my sister really likes to use in a lot of the cooking that she does. She's married to married into a family of people from Mexico, and they use a lot of really good peppers in a lot of the food that they make. And so I'm going to be getting some recipes from her for these guys. I may end up drying these. And then I have some cayenne long slim peppers. I think I have like 3 plants of that. They're kind of intermingled in here. Yeah. And then these 2 plants here are my poblano peppers. I only have one really big guy, and then there's just like a bunch of flowers, as well as one other small little dude. The next plants are my Jalafuego jalapeno peppers, which are like a 4-inch jalapeno. These plants are loaded with peppers, like loaded. So I'm super excited about having these guys, because I really like cowboy candy or cowgirl candy, which is like basically a jalapeno pepper, sliced, diced, minced, however you like, and then added into like a sugary brine, and it just creates this really sweet, spicy, like contradicting flavor. And they're really good on like chips or burgers, or added on top of cream cheese. I have a row of new Carota Carrots, these are supposed to be a heat-resistant variety. I went ahead and thinned these a whole bunch, and it kind of looks like some of these guys are looking a little sad. But I got a front row of them that look kind of okay. I might have to reseed some of these, just because they're not doing quite as well as I was anticipating. And then I have this. I don't remember what this is. This may be my Jardale pumpkin, maybe, because I already have one right here, and it's already putting off male flowers. I haven't seen any female flowers just yet, but the pumpkins usually set off male flowers way before they put female flowers off. Next pepper is this Sugar Rush Peach, which I am already getting some really nice peachy flavored or peachy colored peppers, which I think these guys would actually be ready to harvest. I'm just not quite ready for them because I need peaches, and I don't have any peaches. Oh, look at this guy, super peachy. If we move over here, I think I put a Wilson Sweet watermelon in here just for fun. I have a watermelon patch, but I decided to put some in here. We'll see how they do. They're growing a lot slower, and I have about 100 days left in my growing season, so we'll see if we get anything off of these. And then we have some bell peppers. This is the largest bell pepper I have ever grown, so that is so exciting. These guys are looking so good. I've got some emerald green bell peppers. Looks like we got some more of those guys. A little basil plant in the mix. And then back here, I think I had a yellow wonder bell pepper. And then back there we have the pimento, Red County pimento pepper, I think is what it was. It's from Baker Creek, I'm pretty sure. I have 3 of those guys, and then this is, what is this? Oh, this is my ditil. So this is one of my really spicy peppers, and it is setting off quite a few peppers on it. This is a wild bergamot. I'm excited for these to flower because they have really pretty blooms, and I cannot wait to smell that. I don't know if you guys have been dealing with June bugs, but the June bugs here, I have been trying my best to keep on top of them by putting them in a soapy water mixture in the mornings, and you can see quite a few spots on my bean plants that they're cutting holes in them. Currently, this guy is making some big old holes in this part of my bean plant. You're lucky I don't have my soapy water on me. So this is the example of the pots that do not work well from pepper plants, at least so far from what I've experienced. You can tell that the plants aren't quite as green, deep green as, say, the ones that are in ground. They're more yellow, and that is because they have too much water. These are the pots that have like a bottom reservoir to keep the soil moist. These are my death spiral peppers. I was doing an experiment with these guys for a plant that hadn't been topped versus a plant that had been topped to see which one would produce more peppers. And of course, they're both hit with the the problem that they're getting way too much water. And same goes for my Tabasco pepper plant. This is a plant that I actually had overwintered inside. I pruned it back pretty heavily so that there was no leaves, and brought him back out when the weather was warm enough for him. But this one, he's just looking really sad. It just started putting peppers off, which is awesome, but not nearly like some of my other pepper plants that are in ground. But that's okay. And this pot, as well as this one, I have some Chicago hardy fig trees that are really starting to get quite a bit larger. This one I didn't think would actually survive because I thought it was dead, but it's coming back. I probably should get rid of this nasturtium in here and give it more room, Just haven't quite done that yet. And then this is a garong, probably butchering that one. This is a pepper plant that my sister gave me. It's also a very spicy pepper plant, but it has tons of peppers on it. So we'll see what kind of flavors this guy has. I have not yet seen any figs on this, but it kind of looks like we're getting some little growth nodules in the armpits of these guys. So I'm excited to see if this guy is going to go ahead and give me some figs, because I think that they are delicious. This bed has been getting a lot of spotlights on my channel recently because I had harvested garlic from it, and I replanted it with corn starts that I had started from seed, as well as planted some beans and squash to get a Three Sisters planting. And I got my first summer squash, and I have one in here that I really need to harvest. I was trying to wait to harvest it so that I could show you guys how beautiful these zucchini look. So got one to harvest. Let's harvest it together. I went through, and you can actually see that guy right there is a squash bug. I have been seeing so many squash bugs, and they have eggs everywhere. I go ahead and just squish these guys, but I left them on to show you what they look like. They typically, oh, see, look at them. They typically put their eggs on the underside of the leaves, but I think because this one was curled, they went ahead and put one right there. That one is actually mid-laying eggs. That one is laying eggs right now. Okay, so I'm gonna get this guy real fast. So this squash is hiding kind of, and he's getting quite large. So this is an emerald green squash. Get you guys in here somehow. So I just go ahead and twist these guys right off. Typically that works. This is probably the largest squash I've harvested so far. I left this one on a few days more than I typically would have, but it is a beautiful squash. So I'm super excited to have another one inside. I already had two, had one for dinner last night, so this one's really, really beautiful. I do have a few more on vine. They're looking really good. I went through and I actually removed quite a few of my squash plants because I have some squash vine borers, which you can see the damage. I left this guy in the yard so I could show you guys this, because they basically, if you see squash eggs on the stem, it's more likely that it is a squash vine borer, which they lay their eggs on the stems. That egg will then root itself into the stem of the plant and eat itself fat and happy until it decides to come out. And it just completely destroys the plant from the base, making it so that it can't do anything with the rest of the plant. So this is going to go far, far away. Hopefully I won't have any problems with that with my other squash plants, because I have quite a few that I planted in here when I planted out the corn. In this bed I have golden bantam corn as well as glass gem corn, and I think one other variety of like a yellow corn. And typically they say knee-high by July or something like that, but I have 100 days left in my growing season. It's more than enough for these guys to get to full size and to give me corn. A lot of them have already started, my older corn. So like this corner, I had planted corn first, and this one's already putting off little tassels that will then produce corn or pollen to then pollinate the corn cobs. In between all this other corn, I planted black beans. This is a vining variety of black beans. So the whole aesthetic of the Three Sisters planting with corn, squash, and beans is that the corn is the stalk that grows nice and tall. The beans will then grow up on the corn. Then the squash will go ahead and cover the soil and keep moisture in and protect the bottom layer of soil that all of these plants are on. So kind of experimenting with this. We'll see what we get. This is the most corn I've ever planted ever. So I'm excited if I get a cob of corn. I'll be excited if I get a single cob of corn. As we come up the stairs, I have some random sunflowers, some yarrow, and then this bed is kind of a turnover bed right now. I have some Brussels sprouts, 2 of those guys, another sunflower, a Market More cabbage, which is just about ready to harvest because these are a smaller variety. And then I did go ahead and plant out some cucumbers and squash. So those guys are just starting to pop up. I've seen this one. Oh, there's one over there. Yeah, it's just kind of bare right now. But I'm waiting for those to really start popping up. Just to fill this bed out more. I still have this Romanesco broccoli, which I was really hoping would give me something, but it's not doing anything quite yet. So still waiting on that. Stupid vines everywhere. Of course, have some random onions interplanted in here as well. Almost forgot my last pepper is my shishito peppers, which are looking good. This guy is nice and happy. I actually probably could harvest pretty much all of those guys off. My tomato that I'm rooting is taking really well. So here in the next few days, I'll actually go ahead and plant that guy back out into the garden. And that is a Paul Robinson tomato, which we'll head over to the tomato patch. I have a cattle panel wall of tomatoes that I decided to do 2-liter systems of. And the first 2 plants on this side are my Paul Robinsons, which I have some really nice size tomatoes on, especially this guy. It's nice and big. This is a variety that gets purpley shoulders and a green-red bottom. My next variety is my giant crimson tomatoes. I think I have 3 plants of those. This guy is massive. And then I have my mushroom basket tomatoes, which looks like this guy fell off, which aren't quite as big as some of the photos that I've been seeing. So I don't know if this is just because I planted these guys really close together, or if this is like a soil thing. I'm thinking it's probably because I planted them a little closer than typically you would. The next variety I have are my Cherokee Purple Pole, which has beautiful coloring of dark purple. This is anthocyanins in the tomato. So this is not a deficiency, this is just the variety. When there is sun touching the tomato or getting light to the tomato, these varieties get a nice purpling. This is the same chemical that is in blueberries and blackberries, so it is perfectly okay. And then the last one is my Black Beauty, which these guys are big old tomatoes, and I think those ones are getting quite close. Those two together are really large tomatoes. And then of course I have my black beans that volunteered, and I need to come through and actually harvest a couple good handfuls of these guys. This front row of tomatoes, I have some vintage wine, which I think this guy is probably one of my bigger tomatoes. Vintage wine, I have 2 of those guys. And then a mortgage lifter, which is supposed to produce some really massive tomatoes. Another mushroom basket, which is producing this really cool fluted tomato here. Honestly, I can't remember what this one is. This one looks like another mortgage lifter, but not sure. And then I have my hybrid, my only hybrid tomato in the garden this season is my Gladiator hybrid. This is like a paste tomato. And that guy is producing quite a few really large paste tomatoes. The next bed of tomatoes, I have some pineapple ground cherries, which I need to go through and harvest because there are tons of those guys, especially after the rainfall we got. Got so much rain yesterday. I have some verde tomatillos, which are, got some that are almost ready to harvest. I've been harvesting quite a few of these guys just because they're just dropping like flies. And then I have two plants of the vintage wine tomatoes, and again, some really nice large ones are on here. They've got some really pretty striping. So pretty. This guy is supposed to be a Dr. Wyche's yellow, but it's having the same kind of stripiness as the vintage wine, so I'm not sure if I like mixed these up when planting. This one is a Dr. Wyche's yellow, and I think this is for sure the largest tomato I have ever grown. It does have a bug hole on it, as well as looks like we had some pest damage on this one as well, which is totally fine. I'm an organic gardener, so I'll just go ahead and if there's any interior damage on these tomatoes, I'll just kind of cut them out when I'm processing. And I have Cherokee Purple Pole. That's what these guys are supposed to be. Right? Yes. Again, they don't look quite like the other ones that I have over in the other garden, so I might have had another mix-up. I have some beautiful yarrow, which I absolutely love yarrow. This smells so good. And then just some giant mission marigolds, which I honestly didn't think I'd love marigolds just because they're so typical, but this is just, they're so pretty. I do have a few tomatoes that are planted in these pots that I actually gotten from Target. I drilled holes at the bottom so that they had good drainage. And I just today, staked up all of these tomatoes so that they weren't on the ground, because after the giant rain we had, these guys were just kind of sitting on the ground, soaking in water, sitting in the dirt. So I got them staked up. This is my Blush Tiger Stripes cherry tomato. These are actually really tasty and have kind of a citrusy flavor tone to them. I have another mushroom basket tomato, which honestly, I think I let this get way too dry because these guys were really funky a few days ago. I watered it super deeply, came back the next day and watered it really deeply again. These kind of have like a, listen, kind of have like a hollow sound to them. So I don't know if that is gonna fix itself or if I just ruin those. And then I'll be honest, I am not quite sure what this variety of tomato is, nor do I know what that variety of tomato is. I do have some chamomile planted in there with it. My blueberries, which have seen their day in the sun. We'll get blueberries again next season. These guys did so fantastic. I was so happy I bought this. I bought this for like $13 at like a local, it's not a Tractor Supply, but it's the same thing. It's called Southern Estates, and it was in Kentucky. I got this for $13. Very established blueberry plant. This produced so many blueberries. It was phenomenal. Meanwhile, the blueberry strips I bought from Home Depot, this one got beheaded. Don't know if it's going to be coming back. And that one just it looks really sad. I have my celery in here, which not really sure if this is the best spot for it. It does look like it's getting a little happier, but I have not had good luck with celery. I did go ahead and put a ton of dill in here, so this bed will be used for at least dill, if nothing else. And then I just have random volunteer sunflowers that look super puny compared to some other sunflowers I'll be showing you in a second. This is my medicinal herb stock, and I am super excited with how well this is done. There are a few items or plants in this Greenstalk that did not do well, and again, this was an experiment. I have not grown a ton of these. There are only like a few. Like I've grown chamomile, I've grown catnip, and I've grown nasturtiums, but everything else I had never ever grown. So this is, I think, El Campane. This is not happy. St. John's wort, definitely not happy, which is sad. This I'll have to try again in ground. I have my toothache plant, which is doing so well. Can you just see? Oh, look, there's a fasciated blossom. Two-headed toothache plant. There are just so many stinking blooms on this thing. This guy is actually meant to be, if you were having a major toothache problem and your mouth hurt, you take one of these blooms, you chew on it, and it completely numbs the interior of your mouth. I have not used them yet just because I have not had a need, but I have been cutting them off when they're ready to dry and then just have on hand in case the need is, you know, needed. So again, these guys are just going wild. I have some echinacea right here. This is, I think, a dandelion that decided it was going to be right here. Chamomile, mother's wort, which I've been waiting for it to bloom, because that is when you're supposed to harvest from this, and it is just now starting to bloom. So super excited about that. I think this is my, what is this? Oh, my skull cap. So my skull cap is actually blooming, as you can see. So this guy, I think, is just about ready to be harvested, which is awesome. I have more nasturtiums, which have just been going wild. Hoary hound, which is also starting to blossom. This is a plant that you can use. That is a stink bug. He is not a good guy. But this plant can be used to make candy. We'll see how good that is, because I have honestly I've never made candy. So that'll be a learning experience. I have some more catnip, which this one isn't doing as well as the other one just because it's getting shaded out. I have some more El Campane. Yeah, more El Campane. I need to do more research to see when this guy needs to be harvested. We have echinacea. Kind of looks like it may bloom this year, which is wild because echinacea is a biennial. Typically does not bloom until the second season. So I'm excited to see that. And then this is, I think this is more of my wild bergamot. Yeah, this is super happy. More skull cap in here. More motherwort. So for the majority, a lot of these plants have done so well with being in the Greenstalk, which is awesome. There have only been a few. Yeah, there's this guy. I think this is there are some wood betony. This is the only one of the wood betony that I think actually has pulled through. Other one got, I think, too dry. And then I have some hyssop, which I think could be doing better if it were up further in this Greenstalk, but that's okay. This container has a bunch of carrots, which I harvested a few to see how they were doing. You can kind of see the head of that guy. They're kind of like little finger baby carrots. This Greenstalk has a slew of pretty much everything. I've got marigolds, I've got some basils on the top, some lettuce that has gone to seed, one Wirikawai dwarf tomato plant, which is not doing much of anything. Some strawberries that have lived their life. So this one I honestly need to do some more stuff with, just because it is so empty. I did put some rosemary in here. I bought a plant start of this because my rosemary is not doing quite as well as I wanted to, but I really love rosemary. So, and I have some pole beans. Again, they're seeing the damage of June bugs, but I have been getting a few beans off of this here and there as it's producing. This is my last big cut flower garden that I have, and everything has been producing so well. These snapdragons at the end of the life, I am just leaving these guys to kind of get seed from. So I've been letting them die off, and then I'll go back and collect seeds from these guys. There are a few that are like trying to put off a second bloom. And then I have my straw flowers that are just starting to put blooms on, which I am super excited for. These guys are really great for cutting and then putting in your house because they keep their color, they keep their shape, because they're very papery. I did add in some zinnias in this bed as well. So these are the Envy zinnias. They keep the green color. I have a few dahlias. So this is my Rockstar dahlia. And it has just the prettiest deep purple mahogany color. And it has been definitely the rock star of the garden because of how many blooms it has put off is incredible. The next one to bloom was my creme de cassis. So this is really pretty pink with a deep purple underside. These guys are super pretty. My next one to bloom is my Lark's Ebb. This one is just starting to open. So it's got that peachy pink, and it's supposed to be a variegated variety. So we'll see how pretty this one gets once it opens. And then my Cafe au lait has yet to put any blooms on. Well, actually looks like we've got the start of a bloom right there. So this will be the very first one. This is a dinner plate giant variety of dahlia. So I am super excited to see this bloom. I have some violet asters that just started opening. This one is really pink. But these guys are super pretty. And I definitely will be getting some cuttings of this to bring inside. I have so much calendula. I've been harvesting this nonstop. Some of them I have left on so I can collect more seed from. But this is a playtime mix from Baker Creek. And I love the variation of colors with this variety. Then I have some rudbeckia that is, I think, thinking about putting some blooms on. These guys feel so fuzzy. They're so soft. And then my Bells of Ireland that I decided to not give up on, really, they showed out. So these guys, with the heavy rain, have decided to fall over. But they have been so cool to look at. And I'm just so happy that I decided to plant these after thinking that they were just done. I have some more yarrow and another bean plant, which is looking kind of a little upset with some pest pressure. I put it here hoping that it would climb the trellis, which it's starting to grab hold because my sweet peas have seen way better days. These actually can be pulled out because they're not doing much of anything right now. They've seen their life and they've done their thing, and it's done. My trellis has, I'm pretty sure these are my Kajari melons. If they're not, I don't know what this is. But I'm pretty sure I have a Kajari melon making his way up the trellis, or the arch trellis here. And then I have volunteer cucamelons. which I absolutely love these as a garden snack. They pop right in your mouth. You pick them a little younger, they're a little more sour. You leave them on the vine a little bit longer, and they become a little bit sweeter. But they are like the perfect garden snack. It is currently a race to the top with the cucamelons pretty much near the top. The beans were about to be winning them, but then did a little turnaround and now are looping back. So I think the cucamelons have won. I have some more cucamelons on this side that were growing in the crack here. So they're making their way up on this side as well. I did plant some other melons and stuff on this side, but nothing else has come up. So I guess it's a good thing that the cucamelons, or the Mexican sour gherkins, overwintered, reseeded, self-seeded, whatever you want to say, and kind of did the hard work for me. I didn't start any of these this year, and I guess it's a good thing because they just wanted to come back anyway. As we move this way, I have these guys growing. I'm gonna say that these are cucumbers. I'm not really sure. And then I have a few leeks that I planted. There's so many weeds. I have some milkweed, which I'm so glad this is here because it's perfect for pollinators, especially the butterflies. My asparagus bed is just going crazy. I went ahead and purchased more starts, 1-year starts of asparagus. This is Mary Washington variety from Funky's, my favorite little garden store here in my area. Look at these guys, they're little trees. It's so cute. So I haven't actually harvested any asparagus from this bed yet. But maybe next season I'll get some asparagus off of this. I've really just been focusing on letting it multiply and whatnot so that I can have a good little box of asparagus. Ooh, look at that. So this is a fasciated blossom. This is a flower that fused together, and that looks like a massive one. I think for the health of my plant, because you can tell this guy is way more developed than this side. I'm actually going to take that guy off. I have had so many fasciated blossoms this season that I don't really need anymore. This is a Black Beauty tomato plant, which kind of experimenting with. It hasn't been very happy being on the ground. It's been getting a lot of really weird squishy spots. This tomato had blossom end rot, so I picked it off. But I wanted to see if I could get tomatoes. Yeah, see? Some more blossom end rot. I think it's because of the soil. I have a savory winter herb. This is my first year growing this. I bought another start from Funky's. It has kind of like an oregano scent profile. So I've been harvesting off of this and drying it for later use. I have my single, this is my rosemary start, which I'm happy with, but it's just not quite enough. And then moving on to the prize of this week's garden. These are the Sunflower Steve Van Gogh Fantasy Sunflower Mix, and they just this week started opening and have such beautiful, diverse blooms on them. They've been like, I've been taking pictures for sure. There are quite a few that still have not opened yet, so we'll have a kind of delayed show where we get a few here, a few there, and that is just quite fine with me. This one is like super lemony, neon yellow. So super happy with the little sunflower patch, because I love sunflowers and these guys are just gorgeous. My last experiment is the tomato stalk. So underneath all of this foliage is a Greenstalk, and I planted out indeterminate varieties of tomatoes with no support system whatsoever. So I dealt with blossom end rot with these guys, picked off tons of those tomatoes. I think it could have also been the fact that these guys are heirloom, and I think that there sometimes is a issue with like the first set of fruit on heirloom varieties can be more prone to having blossom end rot. So I don't know if that's the case, but we are starting to get a couple more fruits on these guys. Some of them just look wild. That looks wild. So I'm not really going to go through and try to identify all of these varieties. I know that this one is my chocolate lightning dwarf tomato. The top row is all dwarf tomatoes. Those are the ones that only get to be, 2 to 3 feet tall max. And then, of course, the tomato varieties that are more distinguishable. This is the yellow pear. And then my honeycomb hybrid. I guess I had 2 varieties of hybrids, but these guys are actually ready to harvest. Where did that go? There it is. So I actually really like these. These are super delicious. And then, of course, tiger stripes. But beyond that, and the sweetie has so many tomatoes on it. A lot of these guys I can't even tell. I'm not sure how many tomatoes I'm actually going to get off of this. Maybe next season I will do dwarf tomatoes and perhaps just like cherry tomato varieties, because those seem to be doing the best. I think that it needs a support system in order for this to really work well. I had to figure out the best timing for watering, just because there's so many tomatoes on this. I was top watering as well as spraying in the individual pockets to kind of get this to be okay, because there are tons of branches that are just, this is diseased. So I don't know. It was an experiment. I've gotten a good handful of cherry tomatoes as well as my chocolate lightning dwarf tomatoes off of that. We'll try something different next year. I'm not quite sure what that is yet. The last part of my lower garden is it's the most exciting part. It's high class. I had some leftover soil that wasn't being used, and it was on a tarp. And so, my boyfriend had mentioned, was like, why don't you just plant something in it? And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. So I planted watermelon. I think that this is going so well. I actually have my first watermelon ever, and I don't know if this if it got pollinated. We'll see. If not, I'll go through and I'll hand pollinate something. But I think it's going great. I think these are Wilson Sweet, as well as we have some Sugar Baby watermelons in here. So we have 2 different varieties of watermelon in here. I don't know which ones are which. And then I also planted in some beans. I think these are a bush variety of beans. And then, so watermelon and beans. So I think this is a great use of space. I wasn't going to do anything with the soil, and then I used it. Oh, look, there's another one. So I'm really hoping for watermelon. That's what I'm excited about. Now that we've seen the lower garden, let's go ahead and head up to the balcony garden so I can show you what's growing up there. I have some ideas for next season to utilize the space just a little bit more, but I am pretty happy with with where it's at right now. So this is my dilapidated balcony that I'm getting use out of, because otherwise we weren't really doing much with it. I have oregano here, and I brushed my dog yesterday. He's a very fluffy dog, so his hair is just kind of everywhere. I have sorry, the dog wanted to come out. Yes, hi. So I have a bunch of herbs in this part. This is parsley, which is super delicious. Cilantro that I have let go to seed so I could collect the seeds, which is coriander. Tons of it. I have some dill that went to bloom, which I actually can harvest dill seeds off of now. Tons of marigolds, a teddy bear sunflower, just a dwarf variety, some beans that are just going crazy, more rosemary, some thyme, some grass, and more chamomile. This little dude is some sweet basil, and then this is my Lurikawai dwarf tomato. This is the best looking one. And I think it's just happiest because it's in its own pot. But it actually has a tomato on it. And then this mess. So I think this is the Golden Bantam corn, which just started going to seed or putting off pollen. And some of these guys actually have silks on them. So hopefully we're getting good pollination on all of these guys, because I would love to have some nice, delicious corn. And then I put a pimento pepper up here. He's looking pretty good, as well as there's beans in here. It's just crawling all over the pepper plant. Some more teddy bear sunflowers, dwarf sunflowers. And then my birdhouse gourd, which is going crazy. It is growing all along the banister as well as up this rack. I haven't seen any gourds on it yet, but we will see when when it does. And then I do have a single Roma or paste tomato, which I'm really not sure how I'm gonna harvest those guys, because they are quite low down there, and it's also pretty high up off the ground. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this garden tour mid-July, middle of the day. I'm sweating so much. Let me know down below what plant in your garden you are most excited about. I think for me, my favorite flower that I've been the most excited about has been the Sunflower Steve sunflowers back there, as well as the Dr. White Cheese yellow tomato, my biggest tomato. I'm so excited to see that turn. But let me know what you're excited about in your own garden. I'm thoroughly surprised with how much the garden has progressed since the last video or last garden tour. It's just wild how fast these plants grow, and that I'm already thinking about the fall garden. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I'll go ahead and pop a video up here for you to enjoy until my next upload. But until then, thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.